Welcome to a Chart Nerd technical analysis video. Today we will be discussing the likes of VELO on its monthly time frame. Now there's a certain play that I've been monitoring for about 5 to 6 months here for VELO, and this is a parabolic curve theory. Now the price action has been adhering very well for the past 5 to 6 months, and all is going to plan thus far. Therefore I wanted to update us today on potential targets going into 2025 during the alt season that everybody's sort of anticipating. Now, nothing that I say is financial advice. This is crypto and anything can happen at any time. This video is all for educational and entertainment purposes only. However, I hope you do enjoy the content. Let's dive in. So straight away here, we have VELO on the monthly time frame. We have a fib on from our all-time low back in December of 2022, retracing to the all-time high of November 2020. And from this low, you can see I've got this curve that's been adhering very nicely for VELO here. So the foundation started in November, December. We had the rally up, which created this level of resistance for VELO back in February of 2023. At this point, we then had the retracement back down to this curve for support. In fact, we had 2 points of contact on this curve in August and October, and then we had the rally going into 2023 that took us to our May 2024 highs at 0.0, where was that? 28, I believe it was. Now this rally here in May also led us up to our local resistance point. So that's 2 points of contact on this resistance, and then we've had 2/3 points of contact on the parabolic curve in the amount of time we've been analyzing here from November going into May of 2024. Now at this resistance in May of 2024, VELO then decided to pull back to a key level of support at 0.007. It then ran into a level of resistance, pulled back once more to curve support. So we had a third point of contact on curve support here. And then from this support level in November, we had a push up through November, late November into December. And this is where we've ran into, once again, very close to this resistance since 2023. And also this yellow line right here that's falling down on our heads on the monthly. This is the 20 EMA. And now this is the first time VELO's actually had the retracement up to this EMA of this month. So you can see that VELO's hit this yellow line bang on the money. Now at the same time, it has ran into or very close to this resistance that's been on our heads for a couple of years. So there's several reasons why we've seen a sort of pushback over the last through December, and been a bit indecisive of where we want to go. We will zoom into the daily and have a little look shortly, but right now I'm just showing you the signs here as to why we've been rejected, and again that this path of the parabolic curve is still adhering. Now, albeit considered, I think that once VELO reclaims this monthly 20 EMA, which sits at 0.035, and that's our local high and our resistance, and once that actually gets reclaimed and we do start taking out this resistance that's been on our heads since 2023, I think this is where the fireworks really begin. So I've got this bars pattern on here, which is this red pattern, and this is a sort of a similar replicated move to how it was through August of 2023 going into May of 2024, so just over a year. A very sort of similar move, and albeit considered, with that in mind, I've also got the fib on, which I mentioned from the start, going from the all-time low to the all-time high. So using Fibonacci's here, I've got the 050, which is the first target I think VELO's trying to get to on this parabolic curve movement. You've got the 0618 at 10 cents, which, if you're familiar with my content, is the neckline, is the Adam and Eve breakout pattern, where we had this sort of V-shaped recovery. We then had this cup or this bow, however you want to call it, and we go from the neckline down to where the support formed, and that breakout target brings us up very close to 10 cents at the 0618 Fibonacci retracement on the way to the all-time high. So some confluence there that in this parabolic curve that we've been adhering to, we're also in the breakout and the possibility of pushing up to 10 cents. So there's some confluence with the Adam and Eve bottom. You've got the parabolic curve. We've broken the Adam and Eve resistance. We held that as support, which is this sort of zone here. You can see that VELO was caught between, from April all the way till November, we were stuck between this level of support and resistance. We found support on the curve, and then we've carried on this run, and now we've ran into the monthly 20 EMA and very close to the 050 at 0.044. So I think January, again, if we do adhere to this red bars pattern here, January could be the month where VELO does get that push up, as you can see, to the 0.5 at 0.044. And all that's going on right now from late December or through December going into January is trying to identify VELO's local low. So analyzing again in the daily, we'll have a look at that shortly. But you can see that this month we've actually bounced off of previous resistance. That was previous resistance as support. So previous resistance was at 0.019, and when I zoom in very shortly, you will notice that VELO's actually had a wick down to that level and is now pushing up from it and trying to get back up to these 0.03 targets. But just to keep in mind, we was consolidating for about 6 to 7 months underneath 0.02 resistance and above Adam and Eve resistance. So we was literally caught in a rock and a hard place. We got squeezed into a corner, found curve support, and have now led to the next breakout. So I think December going into January is just identifying the low for VELO before it continues up to the 0.50, maybe consolidate in February, and then going into March, April, and May. I think this is where we could really get that explosive targets where we push on to 10 cents, meet that Adam and Eve bottom target we've been analyzing, and then at that point, maybe just depending on where we are in the market and the current sort of sentiment, we could get that blow off top. And I think VELO could see a movement up to the 0.786 at 38 cents. Now again, nothing that I say is financial advice. This doesn't have to play out, but this is just we've had a bullish breakout. We've gone into consolidation for 6 to 7 months. We've adhered to the parabolic curve. We've ran into the monthly 20 EMA for the first time since its downtrend back in 2021. We've got macro bullish signals, very bullish signals on the macro. And I think the next sort of 2 months, we continue to push higher, find our footing, and then really kick off the price action and movements for VELO going into 2025. Now, again, these are my targets. They don't have to get met. And if VELO does decide to come back for a further correction, and let's say January going into Q1 isn't the time, maybe it's not, who knows, maybe Bitcoin dominance continues to rise, or we just need to consider all outcomes. So I'm going to remove all of this for a second, and it will be very clear that the key level of resistance for VELO to break is this yellow line. Again, it was a long time. We got so extended from it, and it's taken over 2 years to get back to this resistance level. Now, and back to this EMA. Now, again, it's the first time I'm retracing to this EMA, so the likelihood, I think, of breaking it on first attempts is very unlikely, which is why we're seeing the pushback this month and are currently sitting from that 0.035 high at 0.026. So there's key levels of resistance that VELO does need to break above, and you can see that last week, the candle close of VELO sat just above the previous resistance at 0.02. So we managed, this is this month, do forgive me, I think the last week close was at 2.3 or 4, but this month we've got the close above the resistance and we're seeing the push. So really and truly, all that's happening is we're caught between a rock and a hard place. We're caught between the monthly 20 EMA, and we're sitting on the previous resistance as support at 0.019/20. So I think this is the month where we're sort of consolidating, looking for a decision to be made, and this is where VELO decides whether it's going to continue its breakout or whether we meet this 20 EMA as resistance and come back for a key level of support before then getting the explosion. I think there's, of course, there's 2 potential outcomes to every scenario. So let's say, for example, if we run into resistance at this 3.5 high and we're going to start pulling back to the 0.007 double bottoms, well, straight away the target that sticks out to me is the 0.50 at 0.015, and that's because it's the around the golden ratio area that if you meet resistance at a high, if we get a pullback over the next couple of months, this sort of range I think would offer optimal opportunity going into the later parts of 2025. Now again, as I'm saying, the bullish pattern breakouts that we've had, the consolidation where we've broken out of this sort of 6 to 7 month range, to me only indicates further upside, but there is still key levels of resistance to reclaim, i.e. this monthly 20 EMA, and if we fail to take out of it in January, this is where we could come back to this key level of support at 0.015 before then, I think, getting the explosion. Now, ironically, it might tie up with another level of support here, which is this, these candles here. In fact, worst case scenario, again, just covering all potentials, guys. We have to analyze all potentials. You can see that we're stuck under this resistance. Okay, resistance from February, May, and then now December, forgive me, and we've got this support from December, October. Are we missing that third point of contact on support? Am I asking too much for VELO to come back down here before then getting the break? We just have to consider all potential scenarios, but 0.015 on these previous highs here could act as a key level of support moving forward. And we also have 0.022, which I'm going to analyze now. The VELO's been holding throughout December. So again, I'm not going to focus too much on this bearish case right here, but it's just something to consider. If we do start to see a really steep pullback, then just look for support. And again, this 0.07007, if you drag it across horizontally, would tie up at a crossroads in sort of May. But again, I think that's too far gone, and we're in really bullish structure right now, so I don't expect it. I just wanted to show you guys just in case. Now, analyzing the daily here before I go, I wanted to get on the 55 EMA and the 20 EMA. Now, we had a bullish cross for VELO back in November, okay? Back on November the 21st, we had a bullish cross. We back tested the EMAs, and then since then, that's when VELO rallied up. I think it was about 40% to 0.035. Now, in this rally, in this impulsive move up, you'll notice that when we got back above the EMAs and formed the bullish cross, VELO was hovering above the 20 EMA, back tested it for support, got another leg up, fell below it and to the 55, and then put in another high back up to this 0.033 range. So right now, 0.033 is acting as a bit of a sell wall, and it's the key resistance VELO needs to break. And then down here, you've got this 0.022 range, which is VELO's support. So from the bullish cross, we had this massive impulsive move. We came back down to the red 55 EMA, got the breakout above, but ran into the sell wall and have once again retraced. Now, in this retracement from this third peak, which is a potential triple top I've been analyzing in the last video, where we have these three peaks here, and if we lose this white line of support, things could look pretty ugly. But again, that hasn't come into fruition yet, and VELO is holding 0.022 very nicely, and it's actually been holding it since the 5th of December. We had a support test on the 10th. We had a few days down here between the 20th and 23rd and 24th. Are we going to get another retest coming into the new year? Potentially. Now, I think if VELO does start to reclaim its daily 20 EMA, which it lost 2 days ago, and since we're trying to get back above it, okay, we need to see ourselves get back above this daily 20 EMA and also reclaim a key level of resistance, which I think is about 0.028/9. So if we go from the local 0.02 low on the 20th of December, retracing to our 3.5 high, you'll notice that VELO is currently struggling to get back above the 0.50. And this is where we've been hitting our heads for the past 2 days. And at the same time, you've got the 20 EMA, this yellow line in here. So there's a 0.5 resistance and the 20, which is why it's struggling to actually get back above today. So if we continue to hit our heads on this fib and fail, I think we've at least got a minimum retracement back down towards our 0.022 support, which I had on a minute ago. I'm not sure where I got it off, but you can see that this support level at 0.022 would tie up very close to the daily 55. So I think a minimum retracement over the next couple of days could potentially be down to that 0.022 level, of which VELO would need to hold support to invalidate the triple top pattern and breakdown. So I'm not saying that this pattern is completely out of the picture yet. We do need to hold 0.022 if we come back down any further going into the new year. And if we can hold this base and sort of build this structure up and invalidate this triple top, and we're just sort of consolidating, if we can invalidate it and then eventually get the breakout of these three highs, then, you know, we're not going to come into that triple top breakdown. But it's all about holding 0.022 on the daily time frame right now. We have to hold this level of support if we get the retracement. Again, if we can claim the 20 EMA and start getting it back above that, then I think the lows might already be in. But albeit considered, we do have 3 peaks here. We do have a key level of support that we're monitoring, and as long as VELO can hold that, then I think we're good for continuation. In the next video that I come back to, if we do start losing this low and VELO does start dropping below and hitting its head, we'll have to analyze a potential further dip going into the new year for VELO before the fun could later begin going into the end of January, more so into February. Now, just for a bit of confluence, if you remember me zooming out a minute ago and showing you 0.015 and the 0.5 fib being a key level of support, I'll in fact get it on for us again now. So going from the local 0.03 high, 5 high, back down to this low in November where we started the run, you've got the 0.50 at 0.019, which is very close to our current support and sits on these previous highs of November, but you've also got the 0618 at 0.016. Now, if we measure the breakdown target, which is this trend line here from the peaks down to support, if we manage to get the breakdown, you will see that it kind of brings us back down to that 0.016/15 area, which if you also scale over to the left and we get a support trend, a trend line over to the target. So if we do break down and meet this target, scroll over to the left here, and you'll notice that this was an area that VELO was struggling to break above for many days. So we had resistance at 0.015 here in October, very close here. We had it again in November, again in November, again in November, and we eventually broke it on the 22nd of November. So my main thought here is this was a very strong previous level of resistance. We had a breakout and a retest already, so it doesn't have to come. If you'll notice here that this resistance was broken out of, back tested, and then broke out. So the retest has already occurred here, which means it doesn't have to come into fruition, but it's just something to keep an eye on, as it is this triple top breakdown. And if we do come back any deeper, then 0.016 to 15 back on this sort of previous sheet of resistance could act as a fruitful opportunity going into the latter parts of Q1. So that's the sort of bearish scenario. If we lose 0.022, then you've got the breakdown towards the 0618 at 0.016/5 on all of these previous levels of resistance through October and November. So that's the bearish case scenario here. Again, I'm not saying that's going to come into fruition, but it's definitely something we need to monitor as we're running into key levels of resistance right now, and Bitcoin has some uncertainty in the market. So nothing that I say is financial advice, guys. I've kind of giving you a breakdown from the monthly, my bullish targets with the parabolic curve theory. We've zoomed in today a bit into the daily, looked at the triple top. Key things to take away, our key support, is 0.022. If we manage to lose that, we have targets we need to analyze moving further. If we can hold it, fantastic. I think the run to 0.044 will continue to play out into January. I hope you've enjoyed the content, guys, from Chart Nerd TA. I'm so sorry about that. I should put my phone on silent. Take care. Peace out.